Hello and welcome to session 4 of our series on understanding the testing and maintenance of batteries, lead, acid, and beyond. In this session, we will be looking into safe work practices, inspection, testing and condition monitoring, training, competence, and culture, implementation roadmap, and frequency of testing as per NFPA 70B, electrical equipment maintenance standard. Let's begin with risk assessment and job planning. For every maintenance task on or near energized parts, we need to 1. Define the scope of work. Identify what equipment will be involved in that work scope, what approach and safety boundaries will be required, and what the system state is charging, discharging, or on standby. 2. Perform shock and arc flash risk assessments for the circuits involved. This must be performed using up-to-date short circuit and coordination studies. 3. Determine safe work conditions. Can the equipment be de-energized and grounded? If not, you must document justification per NFPA 70E for why the system cannot be placed in an electrically safe work condition and obtain an energized electrical work permit. 4. Plan lockout, tagout lotto steps, including control of power and auxiliary circuits. 5. Assign qualified personnel who have received training on both electrical safety and the specific battery energy storage system technology. 6. Conduct a pre-job briefing covering the hazards identified during the job planning, control measures that will be utilized, roles of each team member, communication, and emergency actions. Wherever feasible, NFPA 70E requires de-energization before working on electrical equipment. For battery energy storage systems, typical steps will include coordinating with the energy management system to cease charge or discharge operations, opening AC and DC disconnects and verifying their open status, for example, through mechanical indicators or status feedback, applying lockout devices and tags, testing for the absence of voltage using a properly rated and verified operational meter, and finally, applying grounding where appropriate, particularly on higher voltage DC strings and AC feeders. Remember, battery systems add complexity because stored energy remains even when disconnected. Work procedures must clearly define where zero energy actually exists and whether barriers or additional controls are needed. When working on battery systems, we need to address arc flash and electrical shock hazards. Apply NFPA 70E methods to determine incident energy, approach boundaries, and required PPE for battery energy storage system inverters and DC combiners, AC switchgear, motor control centers, and transformers. Control panels with exposed conductors. Provide arc-rated PPE clothing, face shields or hoods, gloves, and voltage-rated gloves as appropriate. Use approved insulated tools and barriers when working inside enclosures. Ensure all battery energy storage system rooms and enclosures are labeled to indicate arc flash and shock hazards, in accordance with the latest incident energy studies. When dealing with batteries, we must also remember non-electrical hazards. Even when electrically safe, batteries introduce chemical hazards, acid and alkali burns, electrolyte leaks, toxic decomposition products. Thermal hazards include hot surfaces, hot exhaust, and heater surfaces in high-temperature systems. Ergonomic hazards, heavy modules, and cramped spaces. Safety measures include task-appropriate chemical PPE and spill kits, mechanical lifting aids, and safe handling procedures. Adequate ventilation and gas detection were required by NFPA 855 and equipment listings. Let's take a moment to address fire, thermal runaway, and system safety. The risk of fire and explosion from thermal runaway in lithium-ion systems has driven the rapid evolution of codes and standards. NFPA 855, UL 9540, and UL 9540A together provide the framework for limiting fire spread and explosion risk compartmentalization, separation distances, fire resistance ratings, and validating thermal runaway behavior at cell, module, unit, and installation levels UL 9540A, ensuring appropriate detection, suppression, and ventilation strategies. Maintenance must preserve. Integrity of fire detection smoke, heat, aspirating systems, and suppression systems. Functionality of ventilation and gas detection, for example, hydrogen, carbon monoxide, flammable gases. Separation distances and maximum energy per fire area, no. No ad hoc storage or modifications that violate layouts used in the hazard mitigation analysis. Now let's look at operational controls. Maintenance and operations should implement alarm management, prioritizing and responding to battery management system, fire and gas alarms, avoiding alarm floods or disabled alarms, thermal and state of charge limits, verifying that charging and discharging profiles remain within design boundaries. Abnormal condition procedures. This includes clear steps for what to do if a module shows elevated temperature, gas detector alarm, and the fire detection activates. Finally, the last area that we will cover under the topic of fire, thermal runaway, and system safety will be emergency response and coordination with the authority having jurisdiction. Pre-incident planning with fire departments and the authority having jurisdiction should give responders access to layout drawings, chemistry information, and system ratings. Understanding of non-entry tactics favored for large battery energy storage system fires and the potential for reignition, and knowledge of e-stop locations, isolation points, and any special hazards, for example, toxic gas concerns in high-temperature systems. The next area that we will look at is inspection, testing, and condition monitoring. We will look at routine inspections across technologies. Typical battery energy storage system inspection layers will include daily shift checks, system status regular, alarm, or fault status from human-machine interface HMI, or supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA, and room temperature, ventilation status, and obvious abnormal noises or smells. Monthly, quarterly will include visual inspection of batteries, enclosures, cabling, and terminations. Inspection of HVAC, filters, louvers, and sump pumps where installed. Function checks for fire gas detection and interface signaling supervisory signals. And finally, annual. Detailed electrical inspections, IR scans of terminations, insulation resistance where appropriate. Comprehensive protective device testing, breakers, relays, trip units, and capacity tests or equivalent diagnostic tests for selected strings based on manufacturer guidance. NFPA 70B supports the use of condition-based and predictive techniques, including thermography, partial discharge, online monitoring, and advanced analytics to refine intervals and focus resources. Now let's take a top-level look at battery testing. Original equipment manufacturer OEM requirements should guide chemistry-specific approaches, but common tools include flow voltage and specific gravity trending, particularly for lead-acid batteries. Internal resistance or impedance measurements. This is performed to detect developing defects in battery cells. Performance or discharge testing. Performing periodic verification of capacity in battery runtime. And battery management system, data review, and analytics. Review of dashboards or reports highlighting deviations in cell voltage, temperature, and state of health. All testing must be risk assessed in accordance with NFPA 70E and, where possible, performed without exposing workers to energized parts, for example, by using permanent test points, built-in diagnostics, and remote data access. Training, competence, and culture. A maintenance and safety program succeeds or fails on people. Therefore, core training streams will include electrical safety NFPA 70E for all qualified persons working with or near battery energy storage systems, including contractors. Battery technology fundamentals. This involves an understanding of the hazards and behaviors of the specific chemistries on site. Procedures and permits such as lockout, tagout, energized electrical work, confined space if applicable, and hot work controls. And emergency response recognizing abnormal conditions, alarm responses, evacuation, and incident communication. Refresher training should be aligned with NFPA 70E revision cycles and significant changes to NFPA 70B and NFPA 855, as well as vendor updates for the installed battery energy storage system. Implementation roadmap. Organizations starting up or upgrading a battery energy storage system maintenance and safety program can follow a staged approach. First, conduct a baseline assessment. Map existing battery energy storage system installations, standards applicability, such as NFPA 70E, 70B, and 855, along with UL 9540, and identify any gaps. Second, an electrical maintenance program definition, NFPA 70B. Create or update the electrical maintenance program to explicitly include battery energy storage system assets. Third, an electrical safety program enhancement in compliance with NFPA 70E. Update risk assessments, studies, labeling, procedures, and training to reflect the realities of battery energy storage systems. Fourth, a fire and system safety alignment NFPA 855 and UL 9540 and 9540A. Confirm that maintenance practices preserve design assumptions for fire and explosion protection. Fifth, task standardization. Develop detailed job plan standard operating procedures for routine inspections and tests for each chemistry. Sixth, digital monitoring and analytic. Integrate battery management system and facility data into a central platform for condition-based and predictive maintenance. Seventh, engagement with authority having jurisdiction and insurers. Share plans, address questions, and incorporate their feedback into design and maintenance. And finally, eighth, audit and continuous improvement. Periodically audit compliance with NFPA and original equipment manufacturer requirements. Use incident and near-miss data to refine programs. Now, let's explore the maintenance frequency for battery energy storage systems. We will start with a general approach as per the NFPA 70B standard for electrical equipment maintenance. Later, we will take a deeper look by chemical type. According to NFPA 70B, if a manufacturer does not provide maintenance recommendations and if an equipment failure could pose an unacceptable risk to personnel or the environment, then maintenance must be conducted at intervals no longer than those specified in Table 9, 2.2, which outlines maintenance intervals. In practice, for utility-scale battery energy storage systems, you almost always have original equipment manufacturer OEM instructions. NFPA 70B still matters because it makes maintenance a mandatory program requirement via an electrical maintenance program and provides a baseline when OEM guidance is incomplete, inconsistent, or not risk justified. NFPA 70B's table lists battery energy storage systems with the following maintenance scopes and maximum intervals by equipment condition category. Also applicable to a containerized battery energy storage system. Infrared thermography interval. Table 9. 2.2 also includes an all-equipment line item for infrared thermography at 12 months for condition 1 and 2, and 6 months for condition 3. For a containerized battery energy storage system, this is commonly applied to accessible terminations and power components, for example, PCS inverter AC terminations, transformer connections, switchgear, DC disconnects where accessible and safe. Determining condition 1, 2, or 3. NFPA 70B's maintenance frequency is condition-based, using an equipment condition assessment built from 3 dimensions: the physical condition of the equipment, the criticality of the equipment, and the operating environment in which the equipment is being used. Industry training materials summarizing NFPA 70B explain the typical governing condition logic and triggers. Criticality condition 3, when failure poses a risk to personnel. Operating environment condition 3, when equipment is in harsh, abnormal conditions for which it is not rated and evaluated. A commonly used assessment matrix treats any 3 in physical, criticality, or environment as driving the overall interval selection. Given that utility-scale battery energy storage systems often have high consequences of failure, thermal runaway, fire, arc flash, toxic and flammable byproducts, many owners justify condition 2 or condition 3 unless the installation is tightly controlled, heavily monitored, and has excellent historical performance. Now we will look at maintenance for a utility-scale containerized battery energy storage system. NFPA 70B's table gives scope categories, not a detailed procedure. For a utility-scale containerized battery energy storage system, a compliant way to implement the required scopes is 1. Visual inspection per interval. Typical inspection line items map to common containerized architecture: container, enclosure, integrity, door seals, water intrusion, corrosion, penetrations, housekeeping, environmental controls, HVAC operation, filter condition, condensate management, set points, alarms, safety systems, fire detection, suppression status indicators, emergency stops, signage and labels, clear access and egress. Battery system. Visible condition of racks modules, swelling leak indicators, cable dressing support, and bonding grounding visual checks. Battery management system and controls. Alarms history review, communications health, time sync, event logs as applicable, and finally, power components as installed, PCS inverter status, DC disconnects, protective devices, transformers, switchgear visible condition. 2. Cleaning per interval. Remove dust and debris. Clean and replace HVAC filters. Maintain required clearances. Verify drainage and condensate paths. Address sources of corrosion and contamination. Cleanliness is not cosmetic in battery energy storage systems. Contamination drives tracking, corrosion, overheating, and sensor issues. 3. Electrical testing per interval. NFPA 70B recognizes that intervals may be driven by continuous monitoring or predictive techniques, and that testing should align with manufacturer and industry practices. A defensible electrical testing package for a containerized battery energy storage system typically includes, as applicable to your design and OEM requirements, functional verification of protective functions and interlocks e-stop, door interlocks, ventilation interlocks, alarm trip logic. Verification of instrumentation and sensing is critical to safety, for example, temperature sensors, smoke and off-gas detection if installed, and current and voltage measurement plausibility. And electrical integrity checks appropriate to the design, for example, insulation resistance, where applicable and permitted by the OEM torque connection verification programs, protective device testing on associated AC equipment per its category. Key point. NFPA 70B does not specify test methods for battery energy storage systems in its public summaries, unlike OEM manuals or ANSI NETA documents. Instead, it defines the scope and maximum intervals for testing, with the specific testing content generally based on OEM instructions and accepted practices. Adjusting intervals. 2 notable NFPA 70B 2023 concepts reflected in industry training summaries. If you reduce the maintenance frequency relative to Table 9. 2.2. The deviation and rationale should be documented in the Electrical Maintenance Program EMP. After unexpected failures, use causal findings to decide whether shorter intervals are needed. Conversely, if multiple cycles show no problems, longer intervals may be justified with documentation. Battery energy storage system scheduling. Most owners translate NFPA 70B into one of these schedules. Condition 3. Battery energy storage system common, where consequences are high and/or the environment is harsh. Visual inspection, cleaning, and electrical testing. Every 12 months. Infrared thermography, accessible power terminations. Every 6 months. Condition 2. Battery energy storage system, moderate risk, good environment and controls, strong monitoring. Visual inspection, cleaning, and electrical testing. Every 36 months. Infrared, every 12 months. Condition 1, battery energy storage system like new, tightly controlled, strong performance history. Visual inspection, cleaning, and electrical testing every 60 months. Infrared, every 12 months. And that will conclude Session 4 of our series on understanding the testing and maintenance of batteries, lead acid, and beyond. In Session 5, we will begin with chemistry-specific maintenance and testing.